Now, friends, I want you to imagine this scene for a moment. Jesus and his disciples, they're in the region of Judea. Maybe they're at somebody's home, but they're likely outside somewhere, maybe in a town square, or maybe they're just out in an open field. And all of a sudden, this huge crowd of people comes to see Jesus. All kinds of people, young people, old people, healthy people, sick people, rich people, poor people. You had singles, you had widows, you had couples, and you had young families with children. And so I want you to imagine this for a moment. This young family with children, they're coming up to see Jesus, and all of a sudden, one of the disciples stands in the way and says, excuse me, hold on a second. This is not a place for children. I mean, do you know who this is? This is Jesus of Nazareth. This is the Messiah that our people have been waiting for. And you can imagine the mom of the family being like, yes, I know, sir. That's why we're here. And you can imagine the disciples saying, well, guess what? You probably should have gotten a babysitter because this is a gathering for adults. I mean, seriously, we don't need kids running around and being loud and yelling and screaming and having meltdowns and temper tantrums in front of Jesus. I mean, it's bad enough that we have all these people here. Do you know how annoying that is to have kids doing that? You know how obnoxious that is? I mean, come on. Send your children and you away. And so he just turns them around and sends them that way. Now, at the same time, you can imagine Jesus watching all this as these families keep getting turned away. And he stands up and he's like, hey, disciples, come here for a moment. Disciples come over. Hey, guys, what's going on? And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Jesus is like, why are you turning away all the families with kids? And finally, one of the disciples says, well, Jesus, you know how kids are. They're loud and obnoxious, and they don't take quiet, and on top of that, they pick their nose, and then they eat it, and it's just gross. And you can imagine Jesus saying, whoa, hold on a second. Stop, let me stop you right there. In fact, let me step back a second and make something abundantly clear to you, disciples. Do not hinder children from coming to me. Instead, let them come to me because the kingdom of God belongs to them too. In fact, if you want to enter the kingdom of God, your faith needs to be like the faith of a child. And so again, disciples, do not hinder children in coming to me. Instead, let them come to me. And friends, you can then imagine Jesus looking at the couple, the family that the disciple turned away, and saying, hey, young family, come here, I'd like to meet you. And the young family comes over and they introduce themselves, and you can imagine Jesus sitting down in the grass with the kids and talking with them and laughing with them and listening to them as they tell him about this bug that they found down by the river that's green and it's got spots, and they've never seen one with spots before, and Jesus is just asking them questions about this bug. And you can imagine this going on for a few minutes, and finally Jesus, he holds them in his arms, and what does he do? He blesses them. You see, friends, in Mark chapter 10, Jesus' rebuke of his disciples is crystal clear. He says, do not hinder young people from coming to me. Instead, assist them, help them, bring them, do whatever you can to bring them to me. And friends, you know what? The same is true for us today when it comes to the choices we have. You and I, we can either, like the disciples, hinder young people from coming to Jesus, or we can do whatever it takes to help young people come to Jesus.